Anaviel Jones is an educator, criminal justice reform advocate, and paralegal. At the age of 20, Jones was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. While in prison, he transformed his life, dedicating his time to pursue higher education and his spiritual resurrection. The journey ultimately led him to a world he never knew before. He would eventually embrace another name, becoming Anaviel Ben, I'm going to mess this up, Rakemayahu?
Close enough, Rakemayahu.
Thank you. That's Anaviel over there. Growing up to become a respected leader amongst his incarcerated peers. He also earned his paralegal certification, 2 college degrees, and became certified by the Illinois Department of Health as a peer health educator and a peer mentor. I am thrilled to welcome Anaviel up here to close out our show.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? It's great to be here. Actually, I'm going to just go into this. I know it's getting late, and I haven't been able to drink yet because I didn't want to mess this up. So, all right. I had a sentence of natural life plus 30 years. My destiny was to die in prison. When I was released, no one expected me to seek work and stay in the same space of criminal justice. You know, everybody thought I would do something else, spend so much time in prison. But I had a passion for it, a calling. I was drawn to this work. Maybe this was my burden of destiny, I thought. While I was in prison, I got an education that was not typically allowed for those with long-term sentences like mine. A lot of people were thinking, what would be the point? Was the thinking of those in charge where, we're never letting you out, so why should we educate you? And the way I started on this path to learning was not typical, nor was it particularly positive. At first, I had been asked to join a program that my counselor was teaching others. I was going to be his assistant. As his assistant, I was going to be in all of the classes. I was learning, I was developing a love for learning while I was sitting in here. But being his assistant also meant that I was to serve a role of a cautionary tale to all the other students. Don't end up like him. This counselor actually wasn't really a bad guy. He was just misguided. His name was Charles. He was a colorful person. He liked to shock the people who were telling these crazy stories and created colorful discussions. Sometimes they went too far, but I understood what he was trying to do, even if it could have been done a little bit different. He didn't mean any harm. I was one of his tools of visual aid. He reminded me actually of George Bush, the one that Kanye West said doesn't like black people. That one. He had a slight Texas drawl. He even looked like George Bush. And we were in the South, and he rubbed some of the people the wrong way in this class. People wondered how I would take it. How could you keep coming to this class, taking this, coming back every day and taking this? But I endured it then. But it turned out there was a purpose for that. It was not only humiliating, it was almost like I wasn't real, like I was a prop, talking about me as if I had no feelings. He didn't even care either. Imagine for someone to proclaim something about you that you have no power over. I endured that, and ultimately, it did allow me a lot of opportunities. People would see me after class and talk about me when they're walking back to their units and would say, you see that guy over there? He's never getting out of prison. And I would hear this. People would say this, and it was almost as if I was going to die there, which was the goal for me, to die in prison. A transformation began with this program, with this education, beginning to learn education, to go into these classes and sit in like a fly on the wall, and then I would, just learn these things or hear about these books and then want to want to read these books or talk about these things. Once I opened up my mind to learning and reading these books, before I never thought that I would find anything relatable to these things, but I did over and over again. I was reading everything. I was reading the classics like the Odyssey. Me and Odysseus had a lot in common, I found out. We were trying to find our way back home. I would have discussions with myself in prison, like Socrates, the discourse. Socrates was the wisest man, I learned, because he knew that he knew nothing. And I realized I knew nothing. My street life was totally wrong. I knew nothing. I found the power of education. We ignorantly try to look for powers outside of ourselves, guns, abusing others, bullying people. But once you read about how education throughout the ages, all over the world, is the key, the essential tool to our humanity, it became my path of growth and my own humanity. There was very few things when you're leaving prison that you can take out with you, you know. And a lot of stuff you really don't want to take, usually passing stuff out, giving things up. But I was able to bring back a Bible, you know, a Bible that I had for so many years. And I was able to bring a poem that I wrote. And, you know, this poem that I wrote stuck with me because it almost was one of the moments that I found out that, you know, I had to change and look at things differently. And it's called Retrospect. When I review my life in retrospect, I see all of God's laws that I used to neglect, living my life like one of Satan's street soldiers, denying the fact that I had a spiritual defect, pushing drugs on a corner for a few dimes at a time, selling my soul trying to obtain a bankroll. And now I shed black tears for all those years I misled my peers. I pray every day that I could go back to those misdirected years when I misled my peers. Although now I'm blessed by the Holy One of Israel to be one of the ones he uses to resurrect, I wish I would have understood this simple truth in retrospect. I begin to look at things differently, and I begin to say yes to every opportunity that came to me, just like for tonight. When this opportunity came, I said yes, because I usually don't turn anything down, you know. And new experiences, new benefits of learning, challenges, opening up my mind, and exposures. I worked to become a peer educator. While inside, I started a fatherhood class. I studied to get my associate's degree. I became a paralegal, helping many people file clemencies and petitions, and hopefully to relieve a lot of some people 30, 40, 50 years in prison. These classes where I became an educator was my way of reclaiming my power, my education to teach. It let me take back the power back on how I'm not just a cautionary tale, a prop to be used. I became the teacher, Mr. Jones. And you would hear people talk about me from something of ridicule, or he's not going home to now they're calling me Mr. Jones. And now I walk through this same facility. People would stop and tell me about their assignments, showing me respect, no longer pointing me as that cautionary tale or someone who was never going to be free again. My dedication to education is what led to my release. I learned what the power of the law is. I got my paralegal certification. I invested in legal books. I bought everything from Black's Law dictionaries. I would go in and I acquired books from the library. They would they would discard the old ones after a while, so I would have my cell just filled with books, hiding books like it was contraband, which it was books of contraband in prison. I would read case law, decisions, dissenting decisions, learning Latin. A good friend of mine, Marshawn Allen, he's our policy director at Illinois Prison Project, which I'm proud to be a member of there. He was also a cellmate of mine at one time. But he showed me the benefit and love for the law and studying the law. I learned the language of the law like it was a foreign language, which it actually is for those lawyers in the audience. And ultimately, I was confident to file my own case. I filed my own clemency to the petition. I filed my petition to Governor J.B. Pritzker. I didn't have any experience, but I could build a resume, and I did have a good reputation with a lot of the staff there, so I was able to, go into the law library and get copies and do other things, and I was given a job to work in the library. I was blessed by that. So all of those things worked toward me being able to file my clemency, and after my first hearing, my clemency was granted, and I was released after a parole hearing. Thank you for that applause. I told you I started out in prison and I'm here, so you know I got out. I figured you'd know. Okay. Okay. 28 years ago, I changed my name to Anaviel. It's a Hebrew name, and it means humility of God, signifying my spiritual resurrection. I actually begin to think, like other people begin to think, that I would actually die in prison, but God had a different plan for me. I was released July 28th of 2021. The work that I do now, today I bear the burden of my destiny, and I'm grateful for it. The work that I do now might be the burden of destiny, the travesties of the criminal justice system today. This is our new fight, I truly believe, as the new civil rights movement. The new civil rights struggle is intertwined with the criminal justice system. Today, still not quite sure what my actual destiny is. Sometimes I wonder that. Others can't make decisions for me in my life anymore, though. Only I can decide what my destiny is and who I am. I am no longer a cautionary tale, but one of determination and humility in the name of God, the name I've chosen for myself. Thank you.